Well, there's one lawmaker that says enough is enough, and he wants to bring some order and accountability to this rancid budgeting process. We welcome Senator Jim Runestad, Republican of White Lake, to the Guy Gordon Show. Senator, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Guy. I'm so glad that you are covering this. Most of the media is burying this kind of stuff. Michigan is probably most of your listeners are aware, is one of, if not the worst in the nation for transparency. What they probably don't know is probably the worst in the nation for corruption. And the reason for that is they go hand in hand. If you have transparency, it's very hard to pull the wool over the people. But when you block all transparency, you can pull more shady deals like you just outlined than you can shake a stick at. And for 8 years, I have been battling Republican leadership. A lot of the people that love this kind of power. I put in 14 bills I sponsored, co-sponsored, or voted for, mostly sponsored. Transparency bills, I think 2 got through. I put in, I think, 6 bills for transparency since the Democrats have been in. They've deep-sixed every one of those bills. Again, if you're a power broker, you're in the top, you don't want transparency. It leads to controlling your actions, and they will fight like crazy to stop that.
Well, we should point out, for those that had their snout in the trough, it was bipartisan. I mean,
oh yeah,
and as you point out, I mean, you've been trying to do this for some time, and you've had pushback from Republicans in leadership. So let's kind of define the problem for our listeners. The budget appropriations process, when you get to budget negotiations, we know there's a lot of horse trading, but under the current way of doing business, it's spend now, document, and justify later. Is that kind of boiled down to what it is?
That's exactly how it's done. What happens is the caucuses go around to members they know are going to be amenable to voting for the budget if they get some pork for their area. So they'll give all the pork to the leaders on both sides. They meet in a quadrant meeting. It's just a small group of people. They start cutting deals all over the place, all done secrecy behind closed doors. You don't know who's getting what, whose deal is being cut all over the place. They slap these bills in front of us about 5 minutes before we vote, sometimes gigantic bills with billions of dollars of spending. I voted against just about every one of these bills since I've been in the legislature that come up because we don't get time to read them.
Right.
And it's a corrupt process from top to bottom. The media doesn't get it till we voted on it, trying to figure out what's in there. Sometimes they get hours beforehand, but there's no time to digest gigantic, hundreds or thousands of page bills with multiple projects all over the place. Again, the reason I think we're the most corrupt is we're the least transparent state in the nation.
Well, and in the media, we can't sniff out the conflicts of interest if you're only getting it 5 minutes before you vote on it. So the media's oversight, your oversight responsibilities, it's an impossible situation. So what are you outlining in these bills? And let's start with, you start with, in terms of timing, saying, hey, this 5 minute stuff has got to stop.
Oh, yeah. The first thing on my 2 bills, 319 and 320, they have to have everything done, completely done, and made public 48 hours before the vote. That's the minimum, 48 hours. We get 48 seconds sometimes before they were slapped on the desk and start voting on them. So that is one provision. Every one of these spending items have to be listed as the legislature who requested them. So not like a budget department or a chair who has the whole budget, but individual requests from legislators have to have their name associated. Do they benefit, or does a family member benefit? And what does the community need? This is pretty simple stuff that the average voters say, isn't this being done? They're like, hell no, it's not being done. Nothing's being transparent. They're just ripping the people off, the taxpayers, right, left, and center.
It's like a Saturday Night Live skit, Senator Runestad, because it sounds almost comical what you're asking for, because it's in its simplicity, it's what we ought to be doing anyway. Before we give you millions of dollars, you got to put your name on the request, and you got to tell us how you're going to justify it and what it's going to be spent on. It's just
common sense.
So
it's just astonishing.
Is the one of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle, Senator Jeremy Moss of Southfield, says he doesn't think legislation is necessary, that we can do
Oh,
this
no.
just by changing the budget process.
Oh, yeah.
And he points the fingers, and I think he has said, look, if this was so important to Runestad, how come the Republicans didn't take care of it all the years that you had the majority?
Yeah, how comical. All the bills I put in on transparency that were dead on arrival under the Republicans, like I can stop the leadership. He knows the leadership controls everything. Now they're in charge. I'm putting in bills just like it did under Republicans, and they're being killed just as fast. No, I was transparency before when under Republican leadership. I'm transparency under Democrat leadership. He was transparency under Republican leadership, and he's killing all the bills. He's not advocating anything now that they're in power. Just like you said, you can handle it in the smoky back room. We'll change a few of the policies, but not a bill. No, it's got to be done by a bill, making it legally required that they do the right thing.
Well, you were doing it in the Senate. Matt Hall was doing it over in the House. We applauded you guys for the last 4 years as you undertook this thankless task. And now that, the voters spoke back in November. They said, look, if you want some reforms on term limits, we'll give them to you, but we want financial disclosures. Yet there has been no enabling legislation on that under Democratic leadership. Have you been told when that may be undertaken? And what do you think? How broad should these disclosure mandates be?
Oh, I would be as broad as we possibly can. I think that the people should know if you have a conflict of interest. I was interviewed by the media back when I was in the House about these transparency of when a person is voting on bills, how much of their financial transparency should be there. I'd say as much as we possibly can disclose. But Senator Moss is the person who's the spokesman on their transparency issues, and they have went 4 months with not a single bill put up, even though some of these bills were unanimous by the House that was Democrat and Republican. They've all been vetted, passed through. They're all sitting in death committees. Now he's saying it'll be another 2 months before they can think about looking at these. So now 6 months, then we're in the summer. We're probably going to go on summer break, or they're going to end session, which has never been done, moving it into next year. All the transparency that could be put up in the last 6 months, including the 2 that they're going to wait, we could have everything done. Most of this stuff has been vetted for years and years and years and years, and they voted for it, but they won't put them up. Why? Yeah. I think your listeners know why.
Yeah. I got to ask you before I let you go, distracted driving is going to be coming your way. This would basically make hands-free the new standard. You can't pick up your phone in your car. We've had too many distracted driving deaths. It passed the House comfortably. Do you think it will get the support in the Senate? There has been some speed bumps there in the past.
I think so. There was a provision that I talked with them about today that would make me comfortable to get there to a yes. So I'm not sure how the rest of the senators feel, but there may be, as so often happens with these, some amendments or that type of thing to get it through. But I have a feeling that it is going to get through.
All right. Senator Runestad, we thank you so much, and good luck with this. I know I feel like you and Representative Hall are like those Beatles just pushing that rock up a hill, right? And hopefully at some point, once they're done wrecking the economy of the state, maybe they'll put their attention to this.
Well, I tell the people, get the pitchforks and the torches and march on Lansing. I think that's what it's going to need.
Well, it's sad to say that might be the only outcome. Thanks so much for your time, sir. Senator Jim Runestad, taking the bull by the horns on this transparency issue. We sure appreciate it.